Good evening and welcome to another episode of my channel, ABC of Literature with Miss Gifty. My name is Gift. I'm your convener as usual. In today's class, we'll be looking at one of your WAEC and NECO recommended poems titled Binsey Poplars, Failed 1879. 1879. Now, this is one of the recommended non-African poems. And as usual, as you're preparing for exams, you don't just focus on one poem, you focus on the six African and the six non-African because you don't know where the exams will be set from. It's really important that you know that. So, for Nigerian students, your NECO is coming up this week, and you know that there will be just two questions on poetry. We don't know the poems they will bring out, so it's important that we are conversant with all. Now, let us look at Binsey Poplars. It was written in 1870, around that, and that is the Victorian era. Now, Binsey Poplars Failed 1879 is a 19th century poem by Gerald Hopkins, and who was a popular poet from this era, also known as Victoria literature. Okay, just before that, I want us to quickly look at a bit background of the poet. Now, Gerald Manley Hopkins was an English poet, one of the Victorian writers, born July 28, 1844 in Stratford. He attended St. Buenos College in North Wales to study theology, where he learned Welsh and was encouraged by his superior to write poetry. He died of typhoid fever in June 8, 1899 and was buried in the Glasnevin Cemetery, Dublin. Some of his notable literary works include Pied Beauty, Spring and Fall, Carrion Comfort, God's Grandeur. Hopkins' poetry centers on the themes of manifestation of God in nature. He used poetry to express his religious devotion, drawing his images from the natural world. Similarly, the beauty of the natural world and our appreciation of that beauty helps us worship God. In Pied Beauty, he praises God for his changelessness. His early poems praise nature, particularly nature's ability to regenerate and rejuvenate. Now, this is what brings us back to the Victorian era. They said it was a literature that flourished when Queen Victoria ruled the British Empire between 1837 and 1901. Victorian era is a bridge between Romantic era and the 20th century era. We know what the Romantic era. The Romantic era was an era that occurred that era characterized with nature writing. It was the era just before modernism, just before the late 19th century and the early 20th century. Now, yes, so that is when the poem was written. It is a poem about the destruction of a forest and also gives about the role man plays in devastation. The poem, however, examines nature from an ecological point of view. The often heartless industrialization of the 19th century prompted Hopkins and others to contemplate on what has been lost to cutting and unnecessary felling of trees. Here, the persona in the poem mourns the loss of a forest from human destruction, then urges reader to be mindful of damaging the natural world. Cutting down trees becomes a metaphor for the larger destruction caused by the 19th century urbanization and industrialization. Now, what is it saying here? Now, the late 19th century was when urbanization started, when industry started springing up, people started moving to the cities, we started having all these machines, all these factories. Before, things were localized, but then we started having factories, machines, and a whole lot of other, inventions. That was when we had men who were so creative. We had the nuclear weapons, the guns, the machines, like I've said, and it really affected nature. Yes, it was really affecting nature. You will understand better when we start analyzing the poem. Now, this poem is more like a dirge. It's a lamentation. A lamentation of something. You could see that the poetic persona is in deep loss. I think we no need to waste our time. Let's go straight to the poem. I don't know what you think. Yeah, Binsey Poplars failed 1879 from the very first line. My aspens dear, whose airy cages quelled. My aspens dear. From that very first statement, you could see how personal this poem was for the poet. You could see that Gerald Hopkins really loved the tree. Now, poplars is a type of tree. It's a species of trees. Here is it. These are the type of trees we call the poplar trees. It's a species of trees called this is how they look, like naturally. I don't know if you're seeing the photos well. These are called poplar trees. Now, Binsey is the town where he grew up. He grew up there and he traveled. And, after the war and all, he decided to come back. Now, we need to always know that whenever we go away and we come back, things might not be the same. You understand? Things might not be the same whenever we go away. If you read Fences, you would see that I forgot what's the name of that character again. The main character's wife, I think Allison, her father went through the same phase. When he came back from India from the war, he discovered that a lot had changed. And it really changed who he was. The same thing the poetic persona experienced here. It's so personal for him. Binsey is the town, poplar is the species. It's a species. Now, these particular trees are called aspen trees. I think maybe that's where they got that tobacco, the one people smoke. Probably. I'm not too sure. I don't have enough information. So the trees are called aspen. It's a species of poplar trees. The place is called Binsey. The place he usually visits. You know how you grew up somewhere and maybe you left or you relocated and your parents finally came back and you're like, oh, let me go and visit that place. Oh, I remember when I used to sit there with my friends. The same thing for Gerald Hopkins. And he went there and he was so sad. We are going to know why he was sad. Because from the first line I said, my aspen dear. Now there's a literary device used there. It's called inversion. Please, inversion. Inversion. Instead of my dear aspen, you say my aspen dear. It's poetic, you understand? It can be figurative at times. It's a figurative device. It's basically used in writing, okay, and even speaking. It conveys the same meaning. But my aspen dear, whose airy cage is quelled. The ability, leaves have ability to retain air. You understand? So he's lamenting. What does it mean for something to be quelled? Quelled means to thoroughly overwhelm and reduce to submission or passivity. When something is reduced to submission, he is lamenting, meaning airy cages. Airy cages could be referring to the leaves. Take notes. A standard literature textbook will give you an analysis, and that analysis does not have to be binding. In a standard literature textbook, like when I mean a standard, a very good one, you hear words like it could mean, it most likely refers to. That is not to say that you can't have your own interpretations of lines. That is why literature is dynamic. A question could be given and a candidate could have over 8 different and candidates could have over 8 different perspectives. So take note of when I use could, it means you could even have your own interpretation of the poem. Now, whose airy cage quelled, it was meaning the leaves have been reduced to passivity. He walked into that scene. It's by the river bank and he saw it. He said, man, as in the man was so hurt and disappointed. The trees were no longer there. Let's move on. He said, quelled or quenched in leaves the leaping sun. Quelled or quenched. Take note of his language, his diction. It conveys his tone. Tone dictates the mood. Tone is dictated by the tone of the writer dictates the mood of the reader. Or the audience? So he said it was quelled, meaning it was reduced to passivity, or quenched in leaves the leaping sun. It was not like he now went to, he said, all failed are all failed. What does failed mean? Failed because I want you to really know, for some of you who are just listening so that you can be taking notes, it means to cut down. To cut down, meaning he said, and take note of the repetition. What is the importance of repetition? To lay emphasis. Repetition is basically used. He said, all failed. He didn't stop there. Failed and all failed. Then there was a pause, meaning he's pondering. Oh, he's reflecting, he's thinking back. They cut down this tree. This is aspen deer. It is so personal. He used my and he used deer. And when you have those two words in a sentence, my dear, it is definitely personal. He said it was failed, are all failed. He now said, of a fresh and following folded rank. Now, as a good literature student, you should know that there is a particular use of alliteration. Have you seen failed are all failed? Are fresh, folding, following, folded. Alliteration. As I'm analyzing, I want to just use the stone to kill two birds so that I don't have to do a special video on that. Now, he said of a fresh and following folded rank, meaning this folded rank talks about the orderliness of nature. He can imagine how the trees were when as in what he can remember, they were on a very straight line. See, of a fresh, they were looking fresh, following, folded, meaning you have this mental picture of trees. Look, can you see how these ones are on a fresh, following, folded rank? Can you see the orderliness of nature? Can you see how, straight lines, different? Can you see how they have been strategically arranged? How nature has arranged this, not so organized. That is what he's talking about in that line. He now went on, after describing the orderliness of nature, that scene, I'm sure he was closing his eye. He must have been crying. Something that meant a lot to you. It's just like a house being destroyed. Maybe you went back to where you were brought up. They say that house is now a hotel or it's now a filling station. It's, oh my God, we can't. I don't know if you've ever been in that situation where something that had sentimental value, maybe it wasn't your own, but that place had a sentimental value to you and your background, and it's no longer there, and you feel so sad. That is it. He said, not spared, not one. He used inversion a lot. Instead of not one was spared or something, say, or no one was spared. He said, not spared, not one, or not one was spared. You understand? He said, not spared, not, meaning, can you see how beautiful they are? In that scenery, almost all were cut down. Why? Because of the so-called, now modernism came in the late 19th century, early 20th, just after the Romantic era and the Victorian era. So are you getting it? So that was the period where industrialization started, So let's move on. Not spared, not one. See, that's dandled is sandaled, just giving it a poetic effect. Shadow that swam or sank, meaning, of course, why are trees important? What do people do near trees? Most times it's used as a shield, as a cover. Now, he's also talking about the effect the trees had. He could also be talking about the effect the trees had on the riverbank. Imagine a tree's shadow over a riverbank. When there's a wave, it will seem like it is sinking or it is swimming. Have this mental picture. I don't know if you've seen a scenery like that. Even human beings, sometimes when you're standing over a river and is dancing, you could see your body dancing along. That is what he said. Shadow that swam or sank on meadow and river and wind wandering winding bank. Oh, he really made this poem poetic. A lot of literary devices, alliteration and all that, and even the language. So he's just talking about the beauty of the scene. He's talking about the beauty. How can someone just come and cut this down? He said on meadow and river and wind wandering, and the wind wandering with winding bank, meaning the bank of the river. That is how beautiful the trees were. You understand? The shadow swam or sank on the meadow and on the river. On the meadow means the river bank was there. And the wind wandering, meaning because of the movement of the wind, that was how the shadow sank and swam. With winding bank. The wind winding bank, meaning the bank of the river is ridden with weeds. Obviously, nothing is happening there, no vegetation. So there will definitely be unwanted elements. So this first part is talking about the trees. that was felled, are all felled, of a fresh and following folded rank, not spared, not one, that dandled a sandal. Dandled is an old word. It's what we call dangle. You understand? He's just talking about the beauty of the trees. A sandal, shadow that swam or sank. Taking note of, like I always tell you in poetry, the very first things you should look out for when you're given a question on poetic devices are the sound devices. If you look out for the sound devices, you're good to go. If Neko or Wayek ask you any 5 poetic devices, look out for sound. What are the sound devices? Assonance, alliteration. You understand? Assonance, alliteration. They now go to the obviously simple ones, the use of asso, like simile, metaphor, personification. Before you now, oxymoron, hyperbole, euphemism, before you go to the complex ones. Of course, rhyme scheme. Then look at enjambment and caesura. Now, oh, take notes, take notes. Say, oh, he's so personal. If we but knew what we do when we delve or hew. Delve or hew also means to destroy, to cut down, to what does it mean to chop off someone's head again? Is it to castrate? No, it's not castrate. I've forgotten that exact word. We want to chop off someone's head. He said, if only we knew what we do. Like, you guys just think, the world, you have to evolve. The world is evolving. And then, what are these trees doing? They're just occupying space. Stuff like that. He said, do we know what we are doing? The guy is lamenting. Like, and hope you know that is what we are suffering now, guys. Global warming. Now, people are campaigning for planting trees. What were they? Why did they allow our forefathers to create all these destructions? Now, planting trees, global warming, there are not enough trees. A lot of talks going on about global warming. Global warming. It is a major topic, even in schools, debates. I gave it as a debate to even my students. This is the effect. He was talking about it 1879. Are you getting it? Over a century now. Is it up to 2 centuries? I think it's up to 2 centuries, right? Now, let's move on. He said, when we delve or hew. Now, you might be asked a question to talk about the language of the poet and how it conveys the destruction meted on nature. Take note of words like delve or hew, hack and rack. Are you getting it? To hack and to rack also means destruction. The growing green. Hack and rack, the growing green. Are you getting that point? Hack and rack, the growing green. The growing green means the vegetation, means nature. Now, this poem, as a literature student, you could have a metaphorical interpretation. You understand? It's not just talking about nature in general now. It could be talking about the war, the country, because that was a period where wars started erupting and all. But let's focus on the poplars now. Hack and rack, the growing green. If only we knew what we do when he's not talking about the trees, or he's talking about the world in general, the kind of destruction we are creating in the world, the kind of epidemic we want to. You understand? This poet was really lamenting. Do we know what we are doing at time when we are delving or hewing, or when we are hacking and racking the growing green? Anytime you see green, fruitfulness, obviously, agriculture, growth, fertility. That when we hack and rack it, we are doing more harm than good. Now he went on. Take note of the punctuation marks used there. It's expressing his feelings. You can see the exclamation mark. He's not happy. Since country is so tender, country here is a metaphor for nature, but he's using it as the country in a whole, because nature encompasses all. Nature is the world, and the world is nature. He said, since country is so, meaning nature, the world, nature is so tender. Nature is not something to be toyed with. He says, since nature is so tender, to touch, her being so slender. Are you seeing how poetic he's being? Nature is so tender. Nature is fragile. It's not something we should be playing with all in the bid to create factories or industries. Like, it doesn't make sense. He said, to touch her being so slender. You understand? Like I said, the country is a metaphor for nature. That like this sleek and same ball, but a prick will make no eye at all. Now he made a comparison here, comparing our eyeballs to nature. He said like this sleek and same ball, but a prick will make no eye at all. He said, just the way we would not prick our eyeballs. Have this mental picture. This is the comparison he's making. Please, this part is important. Just the way we would not prick our eyeball, just the way we would not consciously want to put our fingers into our eyes and prick our eyeballs. That is the same. When I say the same ball is the eyeball, the one we used to see. Like this sleek and same ball. A prick will make no eye at all. He said, just the way to touch our being. So he's comparing nature to our eyeballs. We would not consciously want to hurt ourselves. Then why are we doing it to nature? Are you understanding this poem? Since we would not consciously hurt ourselves, why he thinks we are hurting nature? So guys, why are you doing this to nature? What has nature done to deserve this? This is what the poet is saying. Then he went on to say, he's trying to be reasonable with those so-called modernists now, the modernists. He said, now this poem is more like a protest against modernism. He said, where we, even when we mean to mend her, we end her. There's use of antithesis here. You know antithesis, two contrasting ideas side by side. When we mean to mend her, we enter. Contrasting ideas side by side. He said, it might be like we have good intentions, so nobody is saying that you don't have. Now, most of the, if you fell these trees, they are used to create books, obviously woods. You can imagine the importance of wood. We cannot overemphasize the importance of wood. Guys, let's be honest here. This is what he's trying to say. We know how wood is important to the world. It was used to build trains. It was used to build factories, tables, things that we are enjoying today. He is recognizing and honoring that aspect. He said, I will not argue. I know that yes, it is coming from a place of love or whatever, or creativity or innovation. Then it's coming from a place of innovation. But he said, we have all these good intentions to make the world a better place. But do you know that if nature keeps being at the receiving end, we are ending her? We are ending her. Nature can't keep being at the receiving. I'm giving you all these points. Be jotting down so that you know how you'll be explaining to the examiner. You write well, beautiful introduction, beautiful middle body, and a beautiful conclusion. That's what he's saying. And always learn to quote. Just the way I'm saying, be quoting from the poem, depending on the question set. You understand? Just the way you don't prick your eyeballs. Why are we doing this to nature? And I know we have good intentions. Because some of you must have been saying, the man is talking like people just decided to go and start cutting down trees. No. Even that, what if that place was used to build a school? And they now used those trees as tables and chairs. And now, it could have been, maybe that place was used to build a school. Maybe it was the place they needed, not just the trees. There are good intentions, but we are ending her. Come on. Do you know the importance of trees? Scientists have said that trees help us retain all this. It reduces air pollution. I don't know much information, but I know that there are a lot of campaigns about planting trees. It is telling you how the shortage of trees is affecting the world and the population and even the air we breathe. Are you getting it, guys? So he said, we have good intentions, but when we mean that to mend her, meaning we want to mend nature, mend the world, we end her. We end her when we hew or delve. How can you keep cutting down, destroying things around? This one must have really hurt him. It must have really hurt him. Maybe he's even looking at a photo from when he was growing, he took beside those trees. But guys, look at it now. This is a beautiful tree. This is a typical example. Can you see how organized they are? This is how poplars are. Can you see how, I don't know if you can find a video on YouTube, can you see on a straight and following folding rank, or is that like on a fresh folding rank? You know, went on. He said, he's concluded, aftercomers cannot guess the beauty being. Who are the aftercomers? Me and you. This is 200 years ago. Me, I cannot even imagine that someone could open their eyes and cut down a place this beautiful. Look now. The truth is, I can't even have I'm just having a mental picture, but I can't imagine. He's saying that now our children cannot guess the beauty that was here. This is somewhere we can bring our children as recreational. But no. Now, most of these countries that say try to conserve nature, preserve nature, their natural resources. Hope you know those are the places that attract the greatest tourists. Hope you know. These are things we had all over the world that was chopped down. But I want you to, if you know those places that attract tourists the most all around the world, all these places we see on Instagram and all, they're usually the places that have been able to conserve their natural resources. You understand, even wildlife reserve and all. Beautiful scenery, beautiful trees. I don't know if you just go and browse, you will see that I'm not lying. It is, if you notice, the thing that attracts people the most is the beauty of nature. Kai, I would love to travel to that place. Oh boy, that one, if you wake up there in the morning, the way the breeze will even, I don't know if you imagine such sceneries. You understand? Places that don't really have such things, they don't really attract tourists. That is the gospel truth. You understand? Except amusement parks and the rest. You understand? Now, this is a point that realizes that these people are not being all, they don't, it's not like they hate nature. They just don't understand what they do. He said, after commerce. After commerce means our children. They cannot guess, you understand? They cannot guess the beauty being, you understand? He said, 10 or 12, only 10 or 12 strokes of havoc on selves. He's just imagining, even if they are just 10 or 12 trees, only 10 or 12 strokes of havoc on self means we affect us, you understand? I had on self somewhere, but I've forgotten where I said, I've forgotten what it's old English, but on selves mean it will affect us. That's what it means here in this context. Only 10 or 12, only 10 or 12 will harm us. It's not helpful. Will affect us. Even if we feel, and now why are you lamenting, guy? Are you the only one affected? How many trees were here? Is it not just, he's just, even if it's 10 or 12, only 10 or 12 strokes of havoc on self. Are you seeing it? He's just imagining what he would tell his kids. His kids won't do that if he ever got married. Or his nephews. Oh, Uncle this, you love going there. Oh, were there trees here? He will have to start telling them. He can't even describe. Like, how does he want to describe the beauty being? As in, you understand? How can he's lamenting he's lamenting for the children unborn that we are now. Some have even gone, because that's over 200 years now. Ah, God, these modernists did not try. You know, this is a mental picture of the scenery they destroyed. We still have there in some places, but trust me, if these modernists keep going, if they want to keep creating and creating, these ones will still go. Sir, can you see how there are chairs here? This is a place that I've realized how important these trees are. They even place chairs. Imagine sitting here. Kind of inspiration that will be coming. Oh my God. Okay, let's round up. He now started his rounding up. Say, the sweet especial scene. Take note that this poem was written over 200 years. So there's some kind of words you might not be familiar with. And that's why he used a lot of inversion, like the on selves, special, on selves, stroke of havoc will affect us. Ourselves could mean ourselves, we, us. You know, it's not that deep. He now said the sweet special scene, meaning this my sweet special scene. Take note of oh my God, alliteration is everywhere here. He said this my sweet special scene. You understand? He was just looking. Oh, I miss this place. Oh, I mean, you know, stuff like that. My sweet special scene. I really feel so bad. I really feel so bad. He's angry. He's regretting. Maybe he wished. Maybe if I were here. There was this movie. I don't know if you remember the movie. There are some movies I've seen. You will see where a child will climb a tree so that they don't cut it down. And people will now campaign, okay, leave it. You can't just take it. These are people's memories that are being taken away, guys. Are you getting the mental picture? People's memories being taken hell away. Come on. So he said, rural scene, it's a rural scene, obviously. The riverbank, the trees, dancing, shadow sinking and swimming on the meadow and river and wind wandering with winding banks and stuff like that. He now rounded off with one last line. I can imagine the way he said it. He said, it could have been sweet, special, rural scene. Take note of the emphasis, the repetition. God, guys, this man is hot. He's hot. They felt his Binsey Poplars, his Aspen. You know, Binsey is the town. Are you getting it? It's in London. Poplars is the species of trees. The particular type of poplars is Aspen. So that's why he titled it Binsey Poplars. Failed 1879. God, may something that means so much to us should not be taken away. Like, I don't know, I'm just trying to say a short prayer. Because I can imagine, I know where I grew up. The first place we lived in, I can't remember the last time. Okay, I was there last December, Christmas, when I traveled to visit my family. Yes, 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 of course, everywhere is strange. All my neighbors, none of them are on that street again. They're just new people. You know, I was passing there with a childhood friend. We were talking about how boring. Ah, this place is so boring. Like, I know the feeling. Even places we used to go and play, it's either there's a church there, or there's a mosque there, or there's a plaza. Everybody's building plazas now. No single tree on my streets, and I think there were two, three. Not like I feel the way he's feeling. I don't really have sentimental value with all those things. I'm a Nigerian, As much as I love nature, then I didn't really, But now that I think about it, I feel so bad. So, guys, what are the major themes? The destruction of nature, obviously. I don't know, you can be writing some of your own there. Mindless destruction and environmental change. The admiration of natural beauty. The very first stanza talks about the beauty of nature. You understand? Man and the natural beauty. Stuff like that. The poem is really talking about nature's beauty, man's destruction. You can even say how good can become evil. You understand? How good can also harm. I don't know, because he's at that part, that's and that antithesis, take note. We're two contrasting ideas. Man proposes, God disposes. If we mean to enter, we enter, we enter, and stuff like that. He's really lamenting there. He's seriously lamenting there. So I want you to take note of that fact and recognize it, okay? The guy is seriously lamenting. So we might stop here. If you have any question or any poem you want me to look into before your paper, especially for NECO candidates, it's the same scheme, it's the same syllabus and scheme of work, and YA candidates too. You understand? I got requests for some poems I'm not so familiar with. That's because I teach in Nigeria, and I don't really know that scheme of work, but I've seen some of those poems I know. But we'll look at them. I just really have to be familiar with that scheme of work. I really want to know the exam students are preparing for making such requests. And for those of you using the NECO and WAEC, please drop your questions, any particular point you want me to visit, or even a novel, a particular aspect you want me to talk about in a novel or a play. I will look into it. Okay, and for those of you who have reached out to me via WhatsApp, because if you watched that my jam video, that was the only video I dropped my numbers. I see you, I appreciate you. Some of you want help in passing. I got a very heartfelt appeal from a very special subscriber, wants to really do well, and I am impressed by your passion. Just stay connected to the video, make your request. If I can, like I said, I don't need to be showing my face. I think for this kind of channel, the basic idea is to pass the message. But if you still feel I should, you could tell me that. So as usual, you please subscribe. Don't watch and go. Subscribe, I beg you. And also, like, it will help me. I want to grow just the way you're all growing too. I don't have it all. I'm open to corrections. Trust me, if some scholars have reached out to me, literary scholars have reached out to me via this channel, made one or two corrections, which I have appreciated. Honestly, I've connected with colleagues from all over the country, even within West Africa, obviously. But I'm so impressed. People who are willing to teach me stuff. And that's really impressive. So guys, this is the best I can do. I hope I did justice in your opinion. Drop your questions, drop your comment, but please don't like. Just give it a thumbs up. Please just click on that like button, okay? Thank you so much. And subscribe. You can copy the link and post it on your status for your friends to follow. So if you have friends struggling, okay? Thank you. Have a lovely time. Bye.